الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings be on the last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and on all those who follow the path of righteousness until the last day. In our previous session, we looked at the general concept of finding the goals of Hajj, which we call the soul of Hajj. We stressed the importance of finding that direction in order for the Hajj to become meaningful. We looked at Hajj as it was prescribed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and its moral goals. We said it was about change, the signs that the Hajj was accepted, the changes which take place in people's lives. And we compared that to the ritualistic common understanding of Hajj in the cultural setting. For the cultural Muslim, a person who is Muslim based on culture. They were born in a particular land, in a particular family. Hajj is a ritual associated with Islam. As a Muslim, you're supposed to make Hajj. But because the goals of Hajj were not understood, and those goals were replaced by focus on the rites and the rituals, then Hajj lost its original meaning. The goals of Hajj, the reason for which Allah had prescribed Hajj, becomes lost. And we said this was among the reasons why traditionally in Muslim communities, people are discouraged from making Hajj if they're young. They're encouraged to leave Hajj till the end of their lives, because they're looking at Hajj, as a vacuum cleaner, which sucks up all of the bad, the sins, etc. Get rid of it, now you're ready to meet your Lord. So you don't want to do that too soon. You want to do that when the time comes. So this approach ritualized Hajj, turned it into a focus on the outward elements of the Hajj. So we said that if we're going to make Hajj, we should always keep in mind what really is the goal of this part of Hajj. Each element that we are engaged in, we try to find out what is the purpose. What am I supposed to get from this? What does this actually mean? Why do I do this? What's behind it? We're moving on in this second workshop to the elements of Hajj. Actually, in this section, we will not complete the Hajj, but we will look at the basic elements for Umrah, because the Umrah is incorporated into the Hajj. When you go into the technicalities of the different types of Hajj and how it's done. The most recommended Hajj is a mixture of Hajj and Umrah together. That was the one which the Prophet ﷺ recommended, though he didn't do it himself, due to the fact that he had brought animals with him. But that's the one he told everybody to do. Anyway, it begins with Umrah, but they are linked together and make up what we call Hajj Tamattu'. So they share, whether a person is doing Umrah by itself or they're doing Hajj and Umrah together, they will share this initial set of rites and rituals. And that's what we'll be looking at now as the early elements of Hajj or the elements of Umrah. And the first thing that we come across is the issue of miqat, the boundaries or the outposts, which have been defined by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He identified points around Mecca which created the area within which we would refer to as the Haram. This is, you're inside, you should have gone into the state of Ihram once you enter that area. Usually the Haram is using it, the Haram Mekki, using it really more precisely with the area around the Kaaba itself, you know. But once you have actually crossed these boundaries, then you have entered to the sanctuary where you are supposed to be wearing a particular dress. We'll be looking at it, the ihram. And we do so having expressed the intention for Hajj or for Umrah. Those boundaries or outposts are 5. The Prophet ﷺ, he identified them. Dhul Hulayfa is for those coming from the north. For those coming from the north. From Medina. People coming from Syria in the old days would be taking caravans, whatever, they would become coming down through Medina or close to it. Now, you will not find any place called Dhul Hulayfa. What you see there is Bir Ali, the well of Ali. So that is the common name for that area now, that boundary from the north. For those coming from the east, we have Dhatu Irq and Qarnul Manazil. And below that, I mean, what that's called today, is As-Sail Al-Kabir. Then we have from the south, people coming from Yemen, the southern part of Arabia, Yalamlam. It's got here Yalam Iyam, but it should be Yalam Lam. Then Mecca, to the west of Mecca, you're going to Jeddah. Right? Jeddah is already within the boundaries. And that's why if you're coming to make Hajj or Umrah, you need to have made your intention for Hajj or Umrah before you land in Jeddah. Jeddah is within these boundaries, right? Juhfa, that is on the way between Mecca and Medina. Juhfa is now known as Rabigh. That's the town, that's the closest to where the designated place Juhfa was. There's distances there, that's 183 kilometers from Mecca. You can see them, 450 kilometers, that's Bir Ali from Medina. So the point is that these are designated areas from which those who are going to make Hajj or Umrah should have made their intention and worn the garments of the pilgrim. If you're not coming for Hajj or Umrah, then of course it doesn't affect you, you can come in. You're coming for some other reason. You've gone to Jeddah or whatever, or any installations or other small towns in between in this area. And then if you decide whilst you are there, you finished your job in Jeddah or any of the other towns, Rabigh, etc., and you decide, okay, let me go make Umrah, then you make Umrah from your house. You make your intention, put on your garments, etc., because you're already within the miqat. You're inside of the miqat area, so you just use wherever you are as your point for entering into the ceremonial consecrated state of ihram. As we said, these areas were set by an authentic hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They're not set by the Saudi government or anything like this. This was from ancient times, from the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said that the miqat are for whoever comes to them intending Hajj or Umrah, other than those living within them. So when the miqat is neared, then the garments of ihram should be put on with the intention. But now, if, for example, you're going from here, is it possible to put on the ihram from here? Yes. Putting on the garments by themselves don't put you in a state of ihram until you make the intention for Hajj or Umrah. So the garments themselves, though they're called the ihram, they don't put you in that state until you make the intention. So you can wear these garments. The women will wear their own dress, whatever dress they decide to wear for the Hajj or the Umrah. They'll put on something. And it doesn't have to be white. From some cultures, this is cultural understanding. The women will wear white hijabs, white jilbab and a white scarf, like the men wear the white izar and rida. But actually, even these colors, they were not specified. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did not say that men should wear white ihram garments. We do it now. It's just become a standard. Because the Prophet ﷺ in general did prefer white clothing because of the fact that if it's dirty, you know right away. So it will cause people to try to keep themselves cleaner. If you've got dark colored clothing, you won't know when it's dirty or not. You can wear it a lot longer. So white, to keep it clean, you have to wash it regularly. So this is the reason for preferring white. But to wear a ihram which is yellow or green or blue, no problem. It's just 2 pieces of cloth for men. Just 2 pieces of cloth. It could have stripes in it. It could be anything, actually. But if you did that, the Hujjaj around you, they will be bothering you throughout your Hajj. See? So though it's something, it's permissible, it's not advisable. Because you'll just be annoyed by them. Why are you wearing this? You're not wearing ihram. Go get your ihram, They don't know. Because they've only seen the pictures and everybody's wearing white. So that's what it has become. That's become the standard. It's like the Kaaba. The Kaaba is draped in black. But that's not what it was in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Nor for 100 years after the time of the Prophet ﷺ. It's not until the Abbasids that they put black. Otherwise, before that, it was striped, it was other colors. But now, if the Saudi government were to change the kiswa and make it yellow, man, they would be accused of changing Islam. You have all these people ready to attack them. Even though it's perfectly legitimate. It doesn't have to be black. But in cultural Islam, we're focused on what we're used to, what we have seen, what's in the pictures, and that's how it's got to be. Otherwise, it's not right. We don't understand. It's just traditional. So the point is that the ihram garments don't put you in ihram until you make the intention. So you can wear your garments, go to the airport, get on the plane. Well, you could change on the plane, but if you have to get into one of those bathrooms and you have to go and try and put on, my advice is wear it from your house and, relieve yourself. Otherwise, you're going to have, a heck of a time trying to tie up your izar, in the bathroom because it's so narrow. You don't have very much space. Right? So you wear it where it's convenient, and then when you're on the plane or on the bus or whatever vehicle you're traveling in, you see the sign on the road if you're on the road, the boundaries of Haram is coming, Miqat, or you're on the plane and you hear the pilot announces you're now coming to the Miqat, then you make your intention, and with that intention, you now enter into the state of ihram. And we know that the term ihram and haram and haram, they're all related. The issue that people commonly ask, why it's called Masjidul Haram? Is a masjid you go and do haram there? What is that? Masjidul Haram? Why? Are we supposed to avoid haram? And the ihram, you're wearing ihram. Because we've not understood what the term haram and ihram and haram actually mean. Because the term, this verb and its derivatives, refer to consecration, where something is being allowed and something is not being allowed. Some lines have been set. In this state, then you shouldn't cut your fingernails, shave your hair, wear perfume. There's things that are forbidden to you. The state is not a forbidden state. No, it's an obligatory state if you're going to make Hajj or Umrah. But it's a state in which some things have become forbidden. Just like the Masjidul Haram is a place where the Haram is where things are forbidden. It's forbidden for you to go and cut trees, kill animals. There's a bunch of things which are hunting, etc. Not allowed. So when you're in this state, this consecrated state, you're not allowed to do certain things. So that's where the concept of haram, ihram, etc. comes. Anyway, if you wear these garments outside of Hajj and Umrah without the intention, it's nothing. It's just a towel. Now we are wearing towels. It could be a sheet. It doesn't have to be thick. Now people wear the towels. It's more absorbent for sweat, etc. If you're just wearing sheets, then if you start sweating, it will be all over it, right? So this is why they switched to towels now. They're like two towels. But the lower one is called izar, and the upper one is called rida. Izar, which just means like longi, or the equivalent term sarong, depending on your culture, what they call it. And the upper part, it means like cloak. Rida means that cloak. You're wearing it over your shoulders. So those two pieces of cloth, normally when we leave this world, we are wrapped up in a couple of pieces of cloth. So the wearing of this is actually reducing us to the lowest common denominator. When you came into this world, they just put a little bit of cloth around you. When you entered into the world, they wrapped you up. And when you're going out of the world, they wrap you up and send you out. You're buried. So this state is one in which you are disconnecting yourself from the dunya. You're disengaging with the dunya. You're trying to minimize, put yourself in as simple a state as possible. And in our times, for some people, to put on the ihram, it's, for men who you have been raised with the idea that you wear underwear. Now for you to be walking around without underwear, it's like strange, weird. Psychologically, you feel uncomfortable. But underwear is only something that came up in the last 100 years. Before that, people didn't wear underwear. Same thing for women. So, these are changes that have happened in our culture which make ihram uncomfortable now. But it's part of, we have to overcome those attachments, those feelings of, what is proper dress and all these kind of things, and just let it go. This is the idea. It's just letting go the dunya. We usually spend so much time, or you're wearing pants, it has to be ironed this way, that way, you're wearing thobe, it has to be ironed up in this way and that. Everything is done in a particular way. You using perfumes, oils, underarm deodorants, all kinds of stuff now which involves preparing oneself to go out into the world. But here we're giving up all of those things, letting all of it go. These things are no longer important. But it doesn't mean at the same time that we become unhygienic. See, some people think, then you shouldn't do anything. No, you still bathe. Some people, when you're bathed, maybe some hairs might fall off your body because you're not supposed to remove hairs. No. If you take a shower, you wash yourself. In the process of washing yourself, a few hairs came off. It is nothing. It doesn't count as anything. Right? Islam stresses hygiene. It brought hygiene to most of the world. Most of the world, people were not involved in hygiene at all. Without divine guidance, people live like animals. Just barely a few notches above the animals. So it's divine guidance which now brought hygiene into the world. So, though we become simple, we don't become unhygienic. And the ihram, these garments, as I said, for women, they don't have to wear white. They wear a jilbab, an outer garment. People call it different names, but jilbab is the one mentioned in the Quran. With a scarf, or it could be a one-piece scarf and robe together, any color. And black is not necessarily preferable, though it has become common practice to wear black, but it's not. It could be any color technically. The wearing and the entering into that state has with it different levels. The state of ihram has with it different levels, because we said the goal had to do with becoming humble and simple, focusing on the most critical aspects of our lives. The first level of the ihram is the physical level. And this is where we have given up the regular dress. We don't cut our hair, fingernails, etc. That is bringing ourselves down a notch on the physical level. The second is the psychological level, because that physical act should have along with it a psychological impact, meaning that we should feel a sense of humility out of it, simplicity, remembering how we came into this world and how we're going to leave this world. That's all that counts. What's going to make the difference is going to be our deeds. What good deeds have we done? And the spiritual level of the ihram, that has to do with the consciousness of Allah that we are able to realize. Because ultimately the Hajj is about increasing our consciousness of Allah, building strengthening our relationship with Allah. So, in that state, as we pray and do whatever other required acts that have been prescribed at different times, different places, etc., reflecting on the purpose helps us to be more conscious of Allah in that particular act, event, or that particular dress, in the case of ihram, giving more meaning to it so it has more of an impact on us. So we should be conscious of the physical level, make sure we fulfill the physical requirements. That's the outer. Psychologically, it should have an impact on us, the fact that we have given up, made the change. And then we have to focus on the spiritual goals. The spiritual goal of that state of ihram. So as we said, the physical level, we have given up so many of these everyday physical acts, but not hygiene, we said, beautification. Psychologically, we also avoid argumentation, fighting, coarse language, anger. The patient level comes in here psychologically. And it's also about how we look at other people around us, because by having the same dress, it's really taking us down to, as I said, the common denominator. Really beyond this dress, how do people distinguish themselves in the world? It's how the type of dress that they wear. Designer jeans or sunglasses or whatever. These are the distinguishing things to put yourself above others, and people look up to you and see you in this special light, and you like to see yourself in that special light. It's getting rid of that. That really, we're not special in that sense. We're all the same. And as I said, the spiritual is about building our relationship with Allah. Because in that state, we're giving up things which are halal, giving up things, doing certain things which are halal, in order to strengthen our will to give up things which are haram outside of Hajj. As a general principle, the state of ihram does not make halal anything which was haram. It does make haram things which were halal. Right? Is that clear? If you think about all the things that you can't do, these are all halal things. So we're giving up some of these halal things. Why? Because in doing so willingly, doing so in order to please Allah, then our willpower to be able to leave the things which are haram, which Allah has in fact forbidden at all times, it becomes strengthened. Our willpower, our spiritual connection with Allah will help us to give up those things. And that is the spirit of obedience. That was the essence of what happened in the Garden of Paradise, isn't it? The whole trial for Adam and Eve, what was it all about? Obedience. That's the common denominator. Obey. That is the essence of worship of Allah, is obedience. In order for us to express our intention, we have this principle in Hajj known as talbiyah, where we express that intention vocally. Normally, intention is in the heart. But in the case of Hajj, expressing that intention became a part of the rites of Hajj. They became a part of the rites of Hajj. But outside of that, expressing intention verbally, aloud, before doing acts of worship, this is, in fact, bid'ah, innovation. I know it is the practice of people coming from the Shafi'i school before praying, to stand there for a moment saying, إني نويت أن أصلي 4 ركعات مقتديا بالإمام متجها إلى الكعبة. Whole big long story. I intend to pray facing the Kaaba, following the Imam. And this practice, which has become common amongst many who follow the Shafi'i school, was never taught by Imam Shafi'i, nor by his students. This is something which came up later. Possibly it was just something used to teach kids, the children, who easily forget why they're standing in the masjid. So they need some reminder. Okay, why are you here? Okay, I'm supposed to be praying. I'm supposed to be behind the Imam. And, this was good for them. But somehow it ended up with adults. People who are not Arabic speaking, even making these statements of intention, they don't even know what they're saying. But that was not the deen. The Prophet ﷺ never taught that. He never did it. His companions never did it. The intention is there in your heart. When you go to the masjid, you know why you're going to the masjid? You know. It's not that your body carries you to the masjid and you stop and think, now why am I here at the masjid? No. We don't go to the masjid like that. You go and make wudu. The adhan goes, you go and make wudu. You don't know why you're making wudu? Everybody knows. You know why you're making wudu. You're getting set to make this prayer. You need to have wudu before the prayer. So your intention is already there. Right? So it is, as I said, it is not really from the deen. And it affects the prayer also, because people may come there and they still haven't finished saying, and the Imam goes into ruku', and you miss part of your prayer still trying to catch these, du'as or expressions of intention before the act. So in Hajj, this is unique. This is the only time that we are required to express our intention aloud, verbally. Allah made it one of the rites of Hajj itself. You all know it. You've heard it many times. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. This talbiyah that we're making, actually, it is a response to a instruction which was given to Prophet Abraham, actually. When Prophet Abraham had completed building the Kaaba, Allah instructed him to announce to the people that they should come and visit it from far and near, on camelback. So when Prophet Abraham invited the people, he was told to invite, and there was nobody there to invite. Our response, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, we are responding to that invitation of Prophet Abraham. That's the link. We're linking with ancient history, the beginning from the time of Prophet Abraham, right? So in it, we express in the beginning, labbaik Allahumma umratan or umratan ila al-hajj. We express that intent of which one we are going to do, whether it's just umrah alone or whether it's umrah and hajj together. We say that once we have made that statement, we're now in the state of ihram. Even if we're not wearing the garments. Even if we're not wearing the garments. And there are certain types of garments which we were not allowed to use. The Prophet ﷺ did clarify, garments which are stitched. People understand this to mean that there should be no stitches on the garment at all. Now when they talk about stitched garments for the ihram, this is for men really, for women it has to be stitched. But for the men, what they mean is that it's not stitched into a sleeve. So, there's special stitching which gives it a shape, and that's what it means. It doesn't mean that if the cloth that you have has some stitches, even if you stitched a pocket in it to keep your valuables, it's okay. And so people go to the point where they say you can't even have shoes with stitches. You have to wear, regular flip-flops, rubber sandals. That's what you have to wear through here. No. If you have leather ones which has got stitching in it, they say, stitches. They have not understood what the issue of the stitching is. It's not the issue of simply because it has a stitch makes it now not acceptable. No. It is your clothing not cut in such a way and then stitched to form standard normal clothing that you would wear outside of your state of ihram. That's the whole point. So, the intention that we have inside of ourselves is expressed in the statement, Allahumma labbaik umratan, or labbaik hajjan if you're just doing hajj alone, or umratan ila al-hajj if you're doing what they call hajj tamattu', where it's combined. And this is recommended to be said when one is in one's seat in the journey that you're taking towards Mecca. The meaning of the talbiyah, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, is here I am, O Allah, here I am. Labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, here I am for you have no partner, here I am. Innal hamda, indeed all praise, wa ni'mata, grace, wal mulk, and dominion, lak, is yours, la sharika lak, and you have no partner. So, you are responding. That's why he's saying, here I am. You have called me, here I am. Answering your call. So, when we are saying, the idea is not to turn the talbiyah into a sing-song. You know, everybody's singing this song together, we're all enjoying this sing-song. We're supposed to be reflecting on what we are saying. This is very important. Most people don't know what the talbiyah actually says. They know the tune, they know the words, but what is it actually saying? They don't have any idea. So how then can you benefit from the talbiyah? So it's just like a ritual that is done. It's a part of the Hajj thing that you do, but it has no impact on you. There's no impact. How can it if you don't know what it is, what it means, what you're actually even saying? So this is like the general principle we spoke before, where Allah said in the Quran, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Will people not reflect on the meanings of the Quran? Where we have gotten into the habit of just reading the Quran without understanding it, singing it like a song, no meaning, has no impact, it's just a ritual. So the same principle which applies with the Quran applies here with the talbiyah. It is important for us to understand what it means. So those of you that are going to make Hajj, then you should strive to understand what each of the words, this is very small, each of the words mean. You're going to be repeating it over and over throughout the Hajj. So when you think of it, you know, as here I am, O Allah, here I am. You're thinking, here I am. I'm coming here based on your call. This should help us to be more conscious of what we're doing. And that's why we're encouraged to say it continually, to make sure we're focused on why we're here. We're coming answering Allah's call. We're not coming to see the Kaaba. Because if the Kaaba was torn down, and the Prophet ﷺ said in the time, last days, among the signs, somebody's going to come and tear down the Kaaba. There will be no Kaaba there. So what? Then there's no Hajj? No Umrah? No. Hajj and Umrah is not dependent on the Kaaba. The Kaaba was knocked down before. In the time of the Sahaba, Abdullah bin Az-Zubair, when he was declared the Khalifa, the Kaaba, he was based in Mecca. Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, others, they came, they attacked and broke down the Kaaba. They fired rocks on Mecca, and the Kaaba was knocked down, crumbled. Did people stop making tawaf? Did they stop making salah? No. And this is the proof that we don't worship the Kaaba, because see, a lot of people think that we worship the Kaaba. A lot of people, non-Muslims in the world, and maybe some Muslims might even think that too, but a lot of non-Muslims, they think that we worship the Kaaba. And when you try to tell them, no, we don't worship the Kaaba, they say, look, there you are, prostrating before it. Isn't it? And we make it worse by getting prayer mats with Kaabas on it. Isn't that the ideal prayer mat? The one with the Kaaba? And we put it up on the wall. In the place in the house where we pray, we put the picture of the Kaaba there. So now the non-Muslim observing us, you saying you're not worshiping it, but there you are bowing down when you're there in Mecca, and in your home you're praying, you got it on a mat and you're praying and prostrating on it, and you got a place on the wall where you've put the... It kind of looks like it, doesn't it? Kind of looks as it. But the reality is that we're not. And really the prayer mat, the best prayer mat is a plain prayer mat. Because if you're standing to pray Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he prayed and he was wearing a garment which had stripes in it, and it caught his eye whilst he was praying. After the prayer, he took it off and gave it away because it distracted him. He didn't like things which would distract him in his prayer. Now you have these prayer mats with all these designs and, and it's set up in front of you. You're standing there and you're looking at the mat because you should really pray with your eyes open, right? I know a lot of people pray with their eyes closed, but really you shouldn't. The sunnah is to pray with your eyes open. So you're there looking at the mat and all these designs. And what happens is when you stare at these designs long enough, then they start to move. I'm sure you've all experienced that. They start to move. What's happening to your concentration? It's messing up your concentration. That's why the best prayer mat, when you go out, get a plain prayer mat. Nothing, one color. Nothing on it, no designs at all. It will do wonders for your prayer. Much better. So, we want to stay focused on why we're there. The talbiyah is supposed to be a reminder to us. We're expressing, we're reminding ourselves. We're here answering the call of Allah. And we reiterate our shahada. You have no partner. La sharika lak. And we praise Allah as we should throughout our lives. And as I said, the significance of the talbiyah is answering the call which Allah commanded Prophet Abraham to make. So the talbiyah, we could say, is the pilgrim's acceptance of Prophet Abraham's invitation to visit Allah's house of worship. That's the talbiyah in its essence. But its purpose relative to ourselves is to remind ourselves of why we're coming. That we're coming to answer the call of Allah. The talbiyah begins at the miqat, and when you see the Kaaba, you stop. That's if you have intended Umrah. If you are doing Hajj, then you stop after the casting of the stones, Rami, at the largest Jamrah in Mina on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. This is when you stop the talbiyah. And the talbiyah, as I mentioned, is repeated. It should be repeated different points. The Prophet ﷺ and his companions, they used to do it when they were traveling on camel. They were walking when they were going up hills. They would do it when they were descending. When they joined up with other groups of people, they said it after the various prayers and in the morning and in the evening. Talbiyah is recommended to keep us in remembrance of the purpose for which we are there. And the talbiyah should be said in a loud voice. People might be shy to do it now, unless they all do it together. But it should be, as the Prophet ﷺ had stated, Jibril came to me to convey Allah's message that I should command my followers to say the talbiyah in a loud voice. It doesn't mean shouting a voice, you're saying it aloud, as opposed to just saying it under your breath, labbaik Allahumma labbaik. You say it audibly. labbaik Allahumma labbaik. You can hear yourself. It doesn't have to be screaming. You don't go to one extreme or to the other. Well, having said the talbiyah, entered into the state of ihram, reflecting on the purpose of our journey, humbling ourselves, we come into Mecca in that humbled state. There, we should go as soon as possible to the Kaaba. But it is permissible to go and drop your belongings off. Some people say you can't, you just have to go straight to the Kaaba. No, you're bringing a lot of, bags and things like that with you. There's no point trying to take it into the haram. Of course, they're not going to let you. They'll stop you. So it just creates problems for yourself. It's better to take your stuff to wherever you're staying, put it in your room, whatever, and then freeing yourself of all of these responsibilities, becoming focused, you go now to the Kaaba. And it's interesting to note that in coming to the Kaaba, Mecca, we're coming to a place which people would not normally go to for vacation. When you go to place of vacation, you go to, nice greenery, streams, and this type of thing. Mecca is the complete opposite. Hilly roads, hot, it's not a place for vacation. And this is a point that we can clarify to the non-Muslim when they ask, well, why don't you guys allow us to come to Mecca? We allow you to come everywhere you want to go. Why don't you allow us to come to Mecca? Because why would you want to come to Mecca? Vacation? It's not a place of vacation. It's not to enjoy. Mecca is strictly for worship. And that is emphasized by the place that Allah chose for this to take place. He could have chosen another place on the earth, some countries where it's lush, green, comfortable, rains are coming, and but He chose